Have you ever wondered why you just don't seem excited for sex? Perhaps you can feel mentally turned on, yet your body doesn't seem to cooperate. Or your body sometimes responds sexually when you don't feel mentally interested. Many people assume sexual arousal should be straightforward. If you're attracted to someone, arousal should happen. If you're aroused, your body should respond. But sexual arousal is far more complex than that. Hello, and welcome to Ask a Sex Therapist, a space where we explore sexuality, intimacy, relationships, and sexual well-being with curiosity, compassion, and evidence-based understanding. I'm Justine Gilliland, a sex therapist and counselor, and in today's episode, we're exploring the question, why can't I get turned on? To understand the answer to this question, it is important to understand what sexual arousal is and how it works. Sexual arousal can be surprising in the way it operates, sometimes leading to confusion or frustration. In this episode, I'll explain what arousal is, how the brain coordinates your sexual response, why arousal doesn't always work the way people expect, and how biological, psychological, relational, and environmental factors all influence sexual well-being. So, what is arousal? Sexual arousal is the readiness of mind and body for sexual activity. It is being excited for sex, or in other words, turned on. It is both a psychological and physiological process. When sexual arousal occurs, your whole body experiences changes such as increased muscle tension, heart rate, and awareness of pleasurable sensations. In vulvas, there is increased blood flow to the vagina and vulva. This results in clitoral swelling and darkening of the labia minora, or in other words, the inner lips, and vaginal lubrication. In penises, the smooth muscles relax, allowing blood flow into the penis, resulting in an erection. The testes may swell and elevate, and precum may be secreted. When the mind experiences arousal, this may be experienced as the subjective feeling of being horny, turned on, excited, or ready for sex. Your mind is saying, yes, sex, now. If that is what arousal looks like, what are the pathways to getting there? The body's capacity for arousal relies on your brain and spinal cord. It is the coordination of this communication network that results in blood flow and genital swelling. There are two main pathways for sexual arousal signals to travel through: the head route and the touch route. The head route, or in other words, psychogenic arousal. This pathway is triggered by the mind through thoughts, emotions, memories, fantasy, and sexual stimuli. Your brain's cerebral cortex, which is responsible for higher mental processes, digests this information and sends signals down your spinal cord. The head route explains how visual stimuli, thoughts, sounds, and even smells can turn you on. Touch to sensitive areas such as the nipples, breasts, lips, mouth, inner thighs, neck, and earlobes are processed by the brain to also create arousal. The brain is the body's most important sexual organ, and this is displayed in the ability for individuals to experience orgasm without physical genital contact. Purely through sexual thought, fantasy, dreams, psychogenic arousal can be stimulated powerfully enough for orgasm to occur. The second route is the touch route, or, in other words, reflexive arousal. This pathway is triggered by direct physical touch to and stimulation of the genitals. Direct stimulation of the genitals trigger signals to the lower spinal cord, which then sets off a reflex action of genital arousal. This reflex is involuntary and automatic, similar to a knee-jerk reaction. This pathway of arousal becomes especially important with age due to changes in the body over time. The head route also needs the touch route to experience full arousal. Both pathways matter for the full experience of sexual arousal, and the pathways are deeply connected. The brain is always influencing the body through its interpretation and meaning making of touch. Even when the spinal cord is receiving touch signals from physical touch, the mind can block the physical response if it is experiencing fear, anxiety, or stress. Physical changes can also influence the brain. For example, touch, opening up the touch route, being perceived as pleasurable, then leading to sexual thoughts, opening up the head route, and contributing to more physical arousal. Sometimes one pathway is stronger than the other, or one route can be weaker. Understanding how your pathway works can help you to maximize your arousal. For example, there may be a lack of strong tactile sensation, but you are able to cultivate arousal through intentional sexual thoughts or using your mind to zone in on sensory awareness. It is also important to recognize that sometimes the body can respond with arousal signs such as lubrication, even when the mind remains neutral or switched off. This is the experience of non-concordance, where there is a mismatch between physical arousal and mind arousal. The arousal of the mind is very subjective, and in these instances matter more than the physical arousal. Just because an individual may experience physical arousal does not automatically mean they are ready for or excited for sex. This is one reason why physical arousal alone should never be assumed to indicate desire, enjoyment, or consent. Non-concordance can also occur when one is mentally turned on but does not experience genital arousal. It may be there are psychological roadblocks that complicate the mind-body feedback loop, or complications caused by physical factors such as changes simply due to aging, or sometimes serious physical health issues such as chronic illnesses, disease, or injuries. While the head route and the touch route to arousal explain the pathways to arousal, the dual control model governs these pathways, much like traffic lights, giving the green light to arousal, the yellow light slowing arousal down, or the red light which halts arousal altogether. So, what is the dual control model? This model proposes that there are two systems operating within the brain. The sexual excitation system acts as the accelerator or the green light. The sexual inhibition system acts as the brakes or the yellow and the red light. The accelerator responds to anything the brain perceives as sexually relevant. The brakes respond to anything the brain perceives as a reason not to be sexual in that moment. This may include stress, anxiety, relationship conflict, self-consciousness, timing, fear, fatigue, or distraction. Many people focus heavily on trying to press the accelerator harder. However, if the brakes remain firmly engaged, arousal often goes nowhere. A useful question is not only what turns me on, but also what turns me off. And what turns one person on or off may not impact another person at all. This is deeply individual, person to person. We all have a unique wiring when it comes to our sexual accelerators and sexual brakes. Before going any further, it's important to distinguish between desire and arousal, as these are often confused. At the same time, there is a huge overlap between these concepts. Desire is the interest or motivation to engage in sexual activity, while arousal is the mental and physical readiness for sexual activity. They often occur together, but they are not completely the same thing. For some people, desire comes first. They experience sexual thoughts, interest, or anticipation, which then leads to arousal. For others, particularly in long term relationships, arousal may actually come first through pleasurable touch, emotional connection, or sexual stimulation. Desire emerges in response to that experience. This is one reason why many people become concerned when they are no longer spontaneously thinking about sex. They assume something is wrong with them, when in reality, their desire may simply be more responsive in nature, following arousal. Understanding the difference between desire and arousal can reduce a great deal of unnecessary worry and self criticism. So, here are some common factors that influence arousal. It is important to recognize that arousal does not occur in an isolated vacuum. It is shaped by a range of biological, psychological, relational, and social factors. And again, remember what helps to hit one person's sexual accelerators may be a break for someone else. So, first up, biological factors. Physical health plays an important role in arousal. Hormones, fatigue, aging, chronic illness, medications, neurological conditions, cardiovascular health, pain conditions, and substance use can all influence sexual function. For example, difficulties with erections, vaginal lubrication, or genital sensation may have underlying medical contributors that require assessment. Psychological factors. The mind is one of the most powerful influences on arousal. As I said before, your brain is the most important, most powerful sexual organ that you have. Stress, anxiety, depression, body image concerns, shame, trauma, performance pressure, and negative beliefs about sex can all activate the brakes of the sexual response system. Many individuals become trapped in cycles of self monitoring during sex. Rather than being immersed in pleasurable sensation, they find themselves wondering, am I aroused enough? Will I lose my erection? Why am I not getting wet? What if my partner notices? This shift from experiencing sex to analyzing sex often interferes with arousal itself. Then there are relational factors, which can have a profound impact on sexual arousal. Conflict, resentment, emotional disconnection, poor communication, unresolved hurts, and feelings of pressure can all reduce arousal. Likewise, trust, emotional safety, affection, playfulness, and positive sexual experiences often support arousal. Sex does not occur outside the context of relationship. The relationship itself becomes an essential part of the sexual context. There are also social and cultural factors that are at play. The messages we receive about sex also influence arousal. Shame based education, unrealistic expectations, pornographic scripts, cultural beliefs, religious messages, and societal pressure can all shape how comfortable we feel with our sexuality. Many people carry expectations that sexual arousal should be immediate, constant, or effortless. When reality does not match these expectations, anxiety often follows. So, here are some common myths about arousal. Number one, if I'm attracted to someone, I should automatically become aroused. Attraction can contribute to arousal, but attraction alone does not guarantee it. Stress, fatigue, health concerns, relationship dynamics, and many other factors influence sexual response. Number two, If my body responds, it means I want sex. Not necessarily. Physical arousal does not automatically equal desire, enjoyment, or consent. The body can respond reflexively to sexual stimuli even when the person is not interested in sexual activity. Number 3, if I don't feel spontaneous desire, something is wrong. Many people experience responsive rather than spontaneous desire. Desire often emerges after pleasurable touch, emotional connection, or sexual stimulation has already begun. 4. Sexual arousal should happen naturally and effortlessly. While arousal can sometimes feel spontaneous, it is also heavily influenced by context. Most people require the right conditions for arousal to emerge consistently. 5. Sexual difficulties mean I'm broken. Sexual challenges are common. They are often understandable responses to stress, health issues, relationship factors, life circumstances, or learned beliefs. Experiencing difficulties with arousal does not mean there is something fundamentally wrong with you. So, as a start, here are some practical steps you can try. Become curious about your accelerators and brakes. Rather than asking only what turns you on, ask yourself, what turns me off? What makes it harder for me to access arousal? What conditions help me feel more open to sexual intimacy? Reduce performance pressure. Shift your attention away from monitoring whether your body is responding correctly. Instead, focus on pleasurable sensation and being present with the experience. Strengthen emotional and relational connection. For many people, arousal is supported by emotional safety, affection, playfulness, and positive relational experiences outside the bedroom. Prioritize self care. Fatigue, chronic stress, poor sleep, and burnout can significantly impact sexual functioning. Taking care of your overall well being is often taking care of your sexual well being. So, when is it important to seek support? It may be helpful to seek support when difficulties with arousal are persistent or worsening, sexual concerns are causing personal distress, relationship tension is developing around sexual intimacy, fear, shame, anxiety, or avoidance are interfering with sexual experiences. There are concerns about erections, lubrication, pain, orgasm, or desire, or past traumas appear to be impacting sexual well-being. It is also important to speak with your GP if you have concerns about sexual functioning, particularly where there may be medical, hormonal, neurological, or medication-related factors contributing to the difficulties. How does sex therapy help? Sex therapy provides a safe and confidential space to explore sexual concerns without judgment. Together, we explore the biological, psychological, relational, and social factors influencing your arousal and sexual well-being. This may include understanding your unique patterns of desire and arousal, identifying accelerators and brakes, addressing performance anxiety and self-monitoring, exploring the impact of shame, trauma, or negative sexual beliefs, strengthening emotional and relational intimacy, and building practical skills to support satisfying sexual experiences. The goal is not simply to improve sexual function, but to enhance overall sexual well-being, intimacy, confidence, and connection. Thank you for listening to Ask a Sex Therapist. This podcast is a space where I'll be exploring common questions and themes that arise in my work around sexuality, intimacy, relationships, and sexual well-being. Topics that many people quietly struggle with, but rarely talk about openly. If you'd like to learn more, explore related blogs, or inquire about online sex therapy across Australia, you can visit my website at wellbeingcounselor.com.au. You can also subscribe for future conversations about sexuality, intimacy, relationships, and emotional well-being.